got really old.
What was it? What was its name?
Two-Face.
Two-Face, all right. Yeah. It's a very interesting face it's got, yeah.
Well, it's got that thing going right down the middle there. See?
Yeah, I caught that. So you're a little bit sad then. Always sad to lose a pet, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's very traumatic, but I've had this happen to me a couple times actually, right before shows, so it's not too strange. Anyway,
there was a British comedian. He gets a lot of stick. His name's Bernard Manning, but he was very close to his mother, and he tells a story. He was due to do a show, and like 1 hour before, he heard his mother died, and he had to do a show. He just barely got through it, and then burst into tears after. The show must go on.
The show must go on. Well, this is true. Golly gee. Humans. Well, I don't know. Animals and humans, two different things, of course. But
yeah.
Anyway.
So, how are you doing apart from that then? How's your week been?
Not too bad. Are you ready to? Are you started or already?
Yeah.
Or what?
Yeah, I recorded. Yeah.
Oh well. Okay. Hi everybody. Well, okay. Let me just tell you flat off. Obviously, this was. We're expecting all kinds of horrible stuff, right? Because the election's coming up. It's Halloween tonight. It's a blue moon. It's a full moon. It's a blue moon and a full moon at the same time. And of course, if they were going to do anything, they would be doing it now. And then, of course, we've got the Mercury retrograde, which won't be over until the election, which is going to be they're already moving tanks into the cities, and they're starting to board up the windows, getting ready for the rioters. I suppose they're getting ready for Trump to win. It's really foolish for them to suggest that if Trump loses, that QAnon is going to start riots or something, because obviously we know who it's the other side that does that, but still. Anyway, it's probably the biggest worst thing is I got some arbitrary hit on YouTube. My YouTube was basically they screwed me from posting for a week. That's my first significant hit. But the thing is what they went after is a QAnon video, which was basically a video to the QAnon group where I was talking about Trump. I don't even remember the context of the video, but essentially it was, it was slamming Trump for some silly thing.
Yeah.
And here I get this hit on it, and I'm thinking, the hit was for cyberbullying, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, is somebody suggesting that I'm cyberbullying Trump? I mean, right? Right? Whatever happened to like that whole snowflake thing? It's like, when did the Trump people become the snowflakes? It's like, really? Did you hear something you didn't like about Trump, so you had to report it for bullying? I mean, come on, right? And this is so in other words, once again, it just goes to show that the censorship and the attack that we're getting, it's coming from within our own party. These are not Biden people going into the QAnon group and doing this. These are Trump people.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Biden or a Trump person, you're still a believer in bullshit at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's all ridiculous, and it's just extremely frustrating right now. And at least that nonsense is concerned. I suspect that most of the voting has already been done with the mail-in ballots, but who knows? It's just such a fiasco.
It is, yeah. In the past week, I've been studying and learning quite a lot about the Magna Carta. Basically, yeah. I've got this book here. I watched a video. What's it called? Democracy Defined. I watched a video for an hour. This guy explaining exactly the ins and outs of it, and he recommended this book. And I've been interviewing a lady to do with specifically Article 61 of the Magna Carta. And basically, it was a security clause put in there that basically was evoked in March the 23rd, 2001, through the Treaty of Nice. Some people petitioned the barons, and the barons evoked it because they'd essentially took Britain into Europe, which went against, they were doing treasonous acts, and basically, well before that, they were basically treasonous, and there's a long history of it. But this Article 61, when it was evoked, it basically means it is the only constitutional law in effect, and every treasonous law ever written since then and even before then is all null and void. So basically, I have now took an oath of allegiance to the barons and got it under registered mail, and when they receive that, in fact, as soon as it goes in the post, you break the contract of agreement with the state through the birth certificate, and you stand under the barons. And so we're basically common law. We're bringing common law back, and there's a whole movement of people doing this, and they're having practical success in the real world, basically using this. It's like common law, but it's got something more powerful behind it. And if you look into the actual thing, what people are doing, they're putting the police on notice, the courts on notice, and they are getting results with this. And to me, this is the way to basically step away from this tyranny that's coming and all this bullshit, because all these governments are illegal. When you understand this, it's all 100% illegal, and it has no backing in constitutional law. And that Magna Carta.
Don't you think this is going to apply mostly to people in the UK? I mean, obviously it would apply to the whole world, but
it applies to the Commonwealth.
We like to.
It applies to you guys as well.
Right.
It applies to you guys as well. So basically, there's people in Canada that are driving this quite hard, and also in America, because you've had British rule, you can do this too. So if you want to get down the Getty and everything like that, if we're all standing under Article 61, we're basically going to force the police to uphold the law, because we're standing in true law, and they will have to arrest the criminals who are enacting all these acts to basically suppress humanity, because Parliament and even the King are supposed to serve us, and they're using it the other way around, so it's treasonous behaviour. And once there's enough people under Article 61, we can then, open up the parliaments and get proper common law courts in there and basically go back to the original true democracy, which isn't just putting an X in a box. It's actually the jury having the power to repeal certain statutes that are not fair. And to every time there's somebody on trial, they have that power. So it really becomes trial by your peers, and back to how the perfect democracy was written as in the Magna Carta.
Well, I'm never going to suggest that the Magna Carta was ever a good thing from the get-go. I mean, it kind of comes off as a good thing, certainly, but they did that mostly for the people. The people. Like I said, there were two versions: the one for the commoners and one for the nobles. But
what happened
winning over the commoners. In other words, I'm just saying that King John, who this was written for, I don't necessarily think he was a good guy, but I certainly know that the people he was fighting against, the nobles, of who were just one part of the Magna Carta, as well as the Templars, as well as the Vatican and the Hospitallers, and I think those were the groups. The Crown, the nobles, the Hospitallers, the Templars, and the Vatican. Those are primarily the signers. I can't. If there's anyone else in there I can't think of right now, but none of those signers were righteous under any standard. And if I had to pick one group, I mean, it was, if you look back on it, it was mostly the nobles against King John, because the rest of the guys, the Templars, and the Vatican, etc., they kind of fell into the one camp that was sort of behind King John. And the nobles are more like the Rothschilds. Okay, if you had to pick anybody that represents the nobles today, it would be like the Rothschilds and those classes. And if anything, what the Rothschilds have been doing over the last 100 years at least is they've been doing everything they can to get into the royal family, either through subterfuge or through look at this nonsense with King Harry or King whatever he is. I don't believe that those children are. I think those are, they're probably, those are probably Rothschild babies that he's bringing up there. Yeah. So, yes, so in other words, I hear what you're saying, and it all sounds good, but that's just not my thing. And as far as getting that many people to do that and stand up and exert their rights, good luck with that, man. Fuck. I mean, I sent you my show here. My last show, and it's unfortunate. I'm sure you didn't get to see it.
No, I've listened I was actually listening to it, so I've listened to about the first half.
Well, yeah, the first half or so. I mean, I've addressed these things that people need to there's some concepts there, taking responsibility for historical stuff and going all the way back and just having to start with admitting things that nobody wants to admit. And clearly this has a lot to do with the tribe and all that. But at the same time, the tribe took advantage of the crown through the Bank of England and that has not been corrected. And the English people need to do that. I mean, and this, and then to use those very same people that they coerced and duped and took over to go to war with other people like they did. That's exactly what they do. And I talked about this money or gold being taken out of the Getty and relocated up in Ireland and eventually in Scotland. And I don't know about you, but to me that's like an insult. You know what I mean? It's an insult. You can either look at that two ways. The power of the crown is shifting to Scotland,
where it belongs.
Where it belongs, exactly, where it belongs. This is one way we can look at it, right? Or they're bringing it someplace where they think that we're not going to get to it because it's like a backwater toilet that they think that we're not going to expect it to be at, something like that. You know what I mean? But either way, I don't really understand all that business because the crown stuff that's going on up there, that's two different things. The Scottish heritage is one thing, and then you've got the dark stuff, okay? The Scottish Rite, the Masonic stuff, the ancient underground, Druid, pagan, Aleister Crowley, all that nonsense. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, well, basically Halloween was celebrated in a big way in Scotland with all these guys, This, well, we should talk about that a little bit, actually, maybe the history of Halloween and All Saints Night, I think it's called, and basically they used
that was the Druid stuff sort of merging with the Catholic stuff, I guess, right? Or hiding within the Catholic stuff.
That's right, yeah. Same as Christmas, they take Saturnalia and turn it into a Christian thing. So, yeah, I mean, it's a very special night for them. Even the fact that Boris Johnson tonight has announced, again, this is very significant, on the 5th of November, he's announced there's going to be a month lockdown, or it's on the 2nd of November, but it's going to be a month lockdown in England as of a couple of days from now. And lots of people are saying it's on the 5th of November they're going to rebel. And it's like almost significant that they're wanting to incite people on the streets to kind of have some kind of revolution, war with the police or something. But even putting that message out tonight is like having a negative effect on people's consciousness, and that can kind of add to all these rituals that these guys do.
Because people are very angry. They're trying to manifest it.
People are very angry.
Well, that's the thing, just because they say these things and they plan them doesn't mean you have to go along with it. That you don't have to allow them. You know what I'm saying? You don't. We can work against their plans and try to come up with something else. It's just like I've been saying, whatever they've got planned for tonight or this next week or so, we have to try to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Well, again, people with this Article 61, they're basically saying that these, for instance, today in my local town, Falkirk, they had another gathering. I couldn't make it, but the police interrupted it, and they were all quoting this legislation like, there's more than 6 of you there, it's from more than 2 households, this legislation says you can't do that, and basically people...
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just fictitious bullshit, yeah? And the guy who was trying to speak up for common law, he wasn't using Article 61, so he was just saying, you can't arrest me, you have no power over me, I don't stand under you and this stuff. Eventually he got arrested. And then all these housewives and everything started talking this legalese language to these policemen. And they kind of were saying, what the fuck's going on here? And they kind of knew the ridiculousness of their stupid guidelines or laws that they're claiming are law. Whatever happened to the police? There's no victim and no crime. And these people are telling that to them, But apparently when you've got this Article 61, there's this card that you read to them and you say, basically if I read this to you and they try to act back to you, they're committing high treason. And that's still... You can strip them of all their assets and put them in jail. That's what you can do under this Article 61. So people, if they're out in the street, they can disobey these mask rules quite easily, standing under this. And to me, that's a way to fight back against all this insanity that's going on with regard to these rules getting tighter and tighter.
Well, you're going to find out real quick. This guy that got arrested tried to do it, and he still
But he
got
never,
arrested.
yeah, but he never used Article 61. That's the problem. A lot of the common law guys still haven't grasped that yet, but they're not far away from it. They understand there's something afoot. They know it's about the birth certificate, but they're using the legalese language, and eventually the police are going to create joinder, getting they begged this girl to get her date of birth off her, to get the year she was born, and they were in a car. This girl's got her baby in her arms, and for 5 minutes they're like, "Come on, just tell us your date of birth. Come on, just tell us that, and you'll go away. Come on, come on." And eventually she agreed that yeah, that's her date of birth. They go, "Thanks very much. Good day, everyone." Once they've created joinder, so they can process her, And basically, this is what's going on, and people are waking up to this. And it's actually brilliant to see because, guys, for instance, there's a girl who needed treatment for her son in the hospital. They said we can't take it because of COVID. She stood under Article 61, wrote a letter. The next day, the CEO of the NHS called her. She went into the hospital, no mask, no tests, got all the tests done, and got 6 months booking in advance for the son to go back and get treatment because they're acting unlawfully if they try to deny that.
Well, again, these cases are pretty interesting, but as long as they keep working, what the heck. But does and I'd be more than happy to see you guys turn everything over tomorrow. But I really think the Bank of England is where you got to start.
Yeah, well, basically what they're doing through this as well, right? So once you do the Article 61, you stand under that, you put people on notice. So you start putting, this is what they're doing, they're putting chief constables on notice, the courts on notice, the police on notice, and anyone who's basically, going through these statutes and acts that are actually illegal, they're not pure common law, and they're not serving the people, so therefore they're treasonous against the people, and they've been put on notice, and if they keep doing it, then they're guilty of treason, which they're going to get all their asses stripped and put in jail, and actually high treason is still punishable by death. So sometimes you see a lot of cabinet shuffles, or there's lots of ministers. I think there's 10 ministers resigned recently, and they give different reasons. But it's because they're aware of this stuff, and it's kind of growing in, you could say, popularity. For instance, 2 weeks ago there was 200 in a group. Now there's like 1,500, because people are latching onto this as pretty powerful stuff.
I don't know what there was before King John, so I can't really tell you. As far as the nobles, it's like it. It seems to me like that it's falling behind the Rothschilds and those guys.
Well, what happened was, so King Alfred, before that, he did enact kind of good laws, and he was a good king. But when he died, lots of malpractice and stuff came in, and then King John, he was really bad, so much so that all the landowners, they were the barons. They were basically, the people weren't happy with their taxes, so they went to King John, and they were going to actually get King Louis of France to be the king. So that got his attention, because it's not by hereditary, actually, the kings and queens. It's a job. They can actually vote somebody in or put someone in. So when he realised that, he went to this place and signed it willingly. He never had a gun to his head, but he signed the Magna Carta. Since then, they've tried to do different versions of it, and Parliament have tried to do it, but they've not been able to rebuke the first one. So that still stands, but other ones have been brought up and repealed.
Well, let me just say this. It's not that they get voted in and replaced like the CEO of a company. It's conquest. If you want to replace it, you have to replace them through conquest.
Well,
so that's a form of conquest.
In one way, but if the people actually stand up and actually we can appoint the king, if it requires the people to not be under this legislative legal fiction.
Well, once again, that's conquest. If you take the throne, it's just that this is what Occupy the Getty is. It's the same exact thing. People don't really understand what happens when that goes down.
That's right.
That's the throne. That is the throne.
Yeah.
That's why we do that.
Yeah, this can all work in tandem, I think. Basically, once we realise they can't touch us, if we break the contract with them, so they can't arrest us for turning up there. If we turn up en masse, what are they going to do? If we're all totally sovereign men, and decided, we're cleaning up the earth, we're going to install common law courts in the buildings and put the law system back to how it should be. The great idea of British democracy is spread throughout the world. Put those values back, and people have to act properly. Then the next stage of it, of actually where this evil's come from, we have to address that, and that involves going down to the tunnels and basically righteously dealing with these guys in the correct manner. I can't hear you. Can't hear.
Sorry, a lot of other issues are going to have to be addressed historically if you're going to expect people to work with each other.
Yeah.
That is if you're going to overcome all the polarity that's been created, you're going to have to get people to admit certain things. Obviously, there will have to be corrections, and some people are waiting for reparations, and that, of course, is where the Rothschilds are going to have to come in, and this gold that's being stashed is going to have to be repatriated. Talk about common law. Ultimately, if it doesn't involve repatriation of all the wealth that's been ripped off, it's kind of hollow. And that's why I'm a little leery of anything involving nobles, because typically they're the ones that have been very much involved in the ripping off of the wealth. And the thing is about, talking about the Magna Carta, the whole purpose of the Magna Carta was to make sure that the wealth stealing that these various entities were doing, because it's really what it was. It was like a gang of thieves all got together and made rules and made a contract, and they made the crown the godfather, is basically what they did. But they're still all thieves. These nobles, these landowners, how did they get the land? Where did they get the right to tax their citizens? They have the power of life and death over these people. It's completely artificial. There's nothing noble about it, really. It's somebody somewhere related to the crown appointed these people, made these people, that gave them their titles, created, made them into barons and what have you. I mean, obviously, in the Germany, those, the savages types, they've got their two blue bloods and their Teutonics and what have you, and they're not the good guys. I mean, sure, they're the nobility, they're the royalty, but they're not the good guys. Those are the Templars, and we know what the Templars are all about.
Yeah, I mean,
the Getty are Templars, so we're talking about the same people.
Yeah,
I don't trust anybody. Seriously.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, right now, as it stands, because that was evoked, technically speaking, we are standing under Article 61 if you're looking at the law in that perspective. But the thing is, when I was talking to this lady about it, who's quite well versed, I've interviewed her 3 or 4 times now, she says there is, so when the people do claim back the common law, we do have to change some things in the Magna Carta, because there is a couple of articles that do essentially serve the Lord still. So it can be changed.
Why? Well, I don't personally agree with that. I think, see, the Magna Carta, it's like a constitution, and the system, when you try to modify the system, repair the system, you're assuming that there's something in the system that's good to begin with. There was never anything good to the system. The basic system, again, is a greed-based system that it's just perpetuating the old paradigm. It's just like trying to go to a cryptocurrency. It's still perpetuating the old paradigm. They want to perpetuate the old paradigm under a new structure. It's still the same thing. I don't agree with this at all, because the people have blown it. If the people had their shit together, they wouldn't have allowed it to get this fucked up over the last 2,000 years. And the Magna Carta has only been around for what? How many years has the Magna Carta been around for?
800.
Just 800 years, exactly. And I haven't seen anything good from it at all. To be honest with you,
well, it has got buried and has been it's been superseded, but the Parliament has basically took more power than it should have, than the actual true principles.
Well, overall, I would get rid of the entire system. I would throw the entire system away and start from scratch. It's just like, now, I'm not going to talk about the UK, obviously, because of the association with the Bank of England, and because of the association with the Rothschild family. The entire population over there is in trouble until they fix that. Just like all the Jews in the world are in trouble until they fix the Pharisee issue. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, if the French had won Waterloo, it would be on the French to do this. But the French didn't win Waterloo, so you're the guys who got suckered by the Rothschilds, and that shit needs to be fixed. That's just the bottom line. And here over in the USA, we'll forget about all the little skirmishes we had over fiat currency, but you guys need to fix that Rothschild issue. And all this business about nobles is nonsense because they are the nobles, and I'm serious. The crown, in other words, it's like when you look at the Magna Carta and you say that one signer on the Magna Carta are assholes and the other signers are not, and this signer did something invalid, so therefore this thing is invalid, and we're going to go back to this other thing that brings these other players back in. Bullshit. All the players were assholes, all of them. The papacy was assholes. The Templars were total assholes. Hospitaliers, hardly say anything bad about them, but we know what they were. They're like knights. They're like Templar light, And then the crown, the crown were assholes. And my God, the nobles, they were not saints. And they're still not saints. And for 800 years now, they have been working together and conniving and dividing up the spoils amongst each other and not stepping on each other's toes and pledging allegiance to the crown. And now that the crown is under attack because we're going to war with these things, it's just like, the reptiles are same damn thing. It's a power structure, a vacuum. So the last thing we want is when we start attacking one facet of the enemy, some other facet thinks, oh, this is our chance to take over and become top dogs now that the lead bad guys, it's like the damn Lucchese clan has been wiped out, so the some other mafioso family is going to go in there and take the top seat. It's the same damn thing. It's still mafia. You see what I'm saying? There's still mafia. And the court system, I mean, talk about the court system. The entire nature of a court system is satanic. Think about it. The black robe, your summons, they do summons, it's, what else they do, all these things. It's like, it's all satanic ritual. It's all going back to satanic rituals. So until all this Masonic shit has been wiped out and all this Moloch, Babylonian, Canaanite crap has been wiped out. I mean, here's the thing I tried to tell in my one of the things I tried to say in my show is that in the Old Testament, they all like to talk about the Canaanites and, fall of Jericho and all that, and how those are the bad guys, those golden calf worshiping types. Those are the bad guys. And yet, when that tribe spent 250 years in Babylon and they wrote their Talmud, and then Babylon got destroyed by Persia, who do you think carried on all that pagan crap? It was them. It was the tribe. There were no more Babylonians to do any more Canaanite, Babylonian, Moloch shit. They were dead. It was the guys that were released that went back to rebuild the temple. They took that Moloch shit and nurtured it and brought it back to life and kept it alive and spread it all over the world. And by that point, the Babylonians weren't even in the picture anymore. So it's like they need to admit that shit. And then it needs to go away. And then we could talk about all the other crap we need to do. But first they need to admit that they started, they started this shit. If they want us to, it's just like, for instance, it's like Donald Trump. People say Donald Trump is doing all these great things. Okay, fine. He's doing great things. I accept that. But for us to accept him as a genuine good person, first, he has to confess. Right? You got to confess. You got to come clean. You can't just say, well, I'm going to keep all my sins a secret, but I'm going to do good deeds and hopefully it'll work out. No, it doesn't work that way. You got to pay the price. And I'm not saying you got to pay the price, but you got to offer yourself up for that. You got basically got to say, okay, I'm going to take responsibility for what happened. And then you got to, if it's in your power, you do something to correct it. And right now, I would say taking out the Rothschilds and redistributing all those quadrillions of gold they've got should be a priority if these people ever want to be welcomed back in the human family.
Yep.
Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I take your point, exactly what you said. These things do have infiltration, and this group are behind it all. I just think in the short term, people are clinging on to this Article 61 just to kind of stop the.
Well, it's all cool if you want
on a
to go for
personal
that.
level, just to stop the mandatory vaccination or something. But that's just in the temporary, because we need something to kind of put this, attack, hold it off, while we kind of get the knowledge of this other stuff or the will to do it, really.
Well,
And
you have a different battleground where you're at, okay? We have guns.
yeah,
We don't have that. Yeah, we have bullets and shit. We have a different kind of power.
Yeah, but that's the thing we've said about the Q thing. It's got all these patriots just sitting on their arse, just waiting for the plan to unfold. Where in the past, they always said, if they tried all this stuff, we've got our guns. But
that's why they're there. But it's if they're trying to say, oh yeah, they're going to do something, they're going to do something. Well, the whole purpose of having them there was so they don't do something. So if they're acting like they're going to do something, it's like we're not sitting there anticipating them doing something. We're just doing what we've always done. They're the ones that are making the plans to do something. That it's just like in Syria and what have you, when they had these terrorists and ISIS and all this nonsense going on. If those citizens were allowed to own guns, none of that stuff would have ever happened. You can't have that kind of thing happening in a country where you have legal gun ownership.
Yeah. I obviously know what the people in the pro-gun movement gets a lot of grief from the liberals, but it's all this new age kind of, oh, you don't need guns. But the thing is, if you're going to get rid of guns, then the police and army have to get rid of their guns. Who is it that's making the guns?
Well, the police and the army are the people and all that, and you don't really have to get into it because that's not really my thing. But the founding fathers, of course, of this country, basically, George Washington, he thought that sports were stupid. Kicking a ball around was stupid. It didn't build any character. It didn't do anything good for people except for maybe give them the opportunity to fall down and get hurt, or get into a fight with their compatriot. He said a more wholesome activity would be to practice shooting their rifles so that they become good at it, and it builds all sorts of worthwhile characteristics, much preferable than kicking a stupid ball around.
Yeah. About the George Washington and the American Declaration of Independence, and when We the People document, was that not based on the Magna Carta? And was that not wealthy families as well? The Freemasons signing that?
They were Masons. Of course they were Masons. And this is why, just like I say that your entire system needs to be gutted, if I had the opportunity to take over, I would probably have to tear down Washington, D.C., just because it was completely set up as a Masonic temple. And as nice as that marble carvings are, and as much as people enjoy their history, at the same time, if I had the opportunity to do it, I would bulldoze all of those structures, and I would remove those streets that were forming pentagrams and all that bullshit, and get rid of it, start over, move it.
Well, that's basically those streets and everything, and the design of it was obviously, it's an energy field when you build it like that, and even the size of the obelisk is 666 feet, and all these kind of measurements. It's designed for a ritual, really.
Of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all got to go.
Yep. But then there's so many things all over the world that are designed for that kind of stuff,
Oh well, right.
Yeah. So like
all part of it.
Like all the churches, places of worship, people go to, they're all built on ley lines, and then lots of folks say underneath them at night, that's when the satanic rituals and stuff will go on at those things to give it more power into the Earth's grid. Do you believe that stuff?
Well, you have to take every single case under consideration individually to see what's true. But I do know that when I was investigating the Satan's Castle story up in Ridgecrest, which was connected to the McMartin preschool kidnapping investigation and all sorts of satanic ritual stuff, we did find out that there was a Catholic church nearby, and that this Catholic church apparently had tunnels connecting it to this location. And they also, this is the thing, when the McMartin preschool story broke, I don't know if you could look that up, but they found out this connection that the children had been reporting that they were being taken all the way from Los Angeles area up into the hills in the inland areas of quite a bit far eastward of Los Angeles, and taken up into this place where they're performing satanic rituals. And supposedly, when the story broke, the local good townspeople who were members of this Catholic church went and torched this building, burned it down to the foundation. Now, I suspect that what they were really doing was hiding evidence, because I think they were involved.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, these cults are quite dangerous.
Yeah, they are. They are pretty sick.
Yeah. There's an interesting story from somewhere just local to me that Emma discovered a couple of days ago. There's this place called the House of Bins. It's like a really big mansion, and there's a story that the owner of it, he used to play cards with the devil on this table, and he cheated. And the devil, basically, you don't cheat against the devil. So he got this table and he threw it and went out the window into some marshland. And like 100 years ago or something, it was just known as the devil's table. And there was a drought, and the table kind of came up again out of the marsh. And there was pictures on it. So it's just weird that it's got that kind of. Apparently,
table out in the middle of nowhere, huh?
Yeah. It's got a mark of the hoof. It's like this hoof mark appeared on it in the corner of it, and they were saying that was the devil's kind of hoof. It's just
wow.
Yeah, and apparently
no opposing. Do you have an opposing hoof or just a hoof?
Just the one in the corner.
Yeah. Oh God, he must just gone.
Aye, just a wee flick for him.
They talk about that Somerset Belanoff woman who was supposedly doing the same thing.
What was that?
Playing cards with.
Right.
Okay, she had that castle. Where is it? Which castle? Somewhere in Scotland.
Who's
castle?
This? Belanoff.
Somerset Belanoff. Yeah, another one of your nobles. Okay, another one of your nobles. Okay.
Yeah.
You probably want to look into that, but she's really, really dark, and she's like the head of the cabal, kind of. Really, one of these types. But when she was growing up, supposedly. I'm trying to remember the name of her castle. It's a pretty famous castle that she calls home. But while she was living there, she used to play cards with demons and stuff in the dungeon. There's all sorts of ghosts in and there's a story of her doing something similar. Playing cards with Satan. Something of its nature. Seriously.
Have you ever done any Ouija board stuff or contacting the spirits, things like that?
Well, everybody does that when they're kids, I think, at least once, right? But, I do, obviously, of course I contact spirits. I do cards. I do,
You use tarot cards?
I use tarot cards, yeah. And I do also, house cleaning, where you're having to deal with dark stuff. Also, hell, when you're doing the astral stuff, that's what that is, pretty much. So yeah.
So you're in at the deep end.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying it's different. It's not, like I said, it's not like you're doing a seance and you're conjuring up demons and stuff like that. This is obviously not like that at all. This is going into their territory to do battle with them, not to invite them over for tea or something and say, can you do me a favor and hook me up with some special powers? No, we're trying to fuck them up, not be friendly, right?
Yeah.
So it's a whole different thing, yeah.
Yeah.
But so go on. But no, dead people though, obviously dead people, you can talk to dead people, right? I mean,
so what do about like reincarnation? Somebody dies and then they get reincarnated, so then how can you talk to them again? How does that work?
How's that work?
Yeah.
All right. It's really not that complex because, first of all, you're always on these different levels, okay? And your soul, the one that is essentially driving your body, it can do things that you're not aware of, okay? So, in other words, your soul can have a conversation with your long-lost relatives, and you don't know this is going on, kind of a thing, So,
okay.
That's just the way it is. So I'll give you an example. Like, for instance, when my grandmother died, she was like 93, and usually humans, they don't reincarnate very soon, but she came back relatively soon for one reason or another, and was reborn in Russia. But obviously, when I was talking to her, she was still, the 93-year-old woman that had the experience of all that, and
so she wouldn't have knowledge of the life in Russia.
no, not at all.
Right.
She couldn't. Yeah, in other words, the person living in Russia would have no clue of anything that came before, or that she had people from before in contact with her. Yeah.
So the one you're talking to, she only had knowledge of her past life, even though she'd been reincarnated into Russia.
Oh no, she could tell you that she was born living in Russia, but
okay.
There wouldn't be. What are you going to talk about? It's like, geez, so what's Russia like? How's the borscht today? It's like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's you talk about other stuff. It's like, okay, what did I talk to her about? It was like, okay, she was a Seventh-day Adventist. I said, hey, Grandma, how about that Seventh-day Adventist stuff? Now that you're over there on the other side, what do you think about all that stuff? She says, oh my God, that was bullshit. Oh, why did I ever do that? She knew that was BS.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about when you die. Obviously, you have all these different personalities, but the thing is as a human characteristics and human personalities, you still hang on to that stuff, even though you go on the other side and you know what's right. You've seen the light, literally.
So as I was going to say, do you not
you
carry
still
your
hold
ignorance?
on to this point. It's like, for instance, when I was talking to my dad, okay, I told him, I said, hey, how about that marijuana stuff? It's all legal now. What do you think of that? Cures cancer. Ha ha ha. How about that? I got the last laugh. He's like, yeah, even though I'm on the other side and I know better now, I still hang on to my same preconceived notions, so I hate it. Right? It's like whatever they felt before, they hang on to that, even though they know better.
Okay. Seems like a lot of people do in this life as well.
Pretty much.
That's quite interesting. So when you're saying you're talking to them, how does this happen? Just a conversation in your head? Do you have to go somewhere? Do you have to meditate?
Oh, well, no, that's usually through a psychic, channel, somebody who does that, who does that. There are people out there that do that stuff. They do it really good. And obviously, I mean, most of the time when, like, the people that do it, they don't really like doing it. This one guy, he didn't really like doing it. Sometimes he'd have a buzz or something. He'd be having fun. He couldn't control himself. It'd be all coming through. Like, for instance, John Lennon was one of these guys that liked to come through a lot. He's very talkative. In fact, he's a sort of character that it's very easy to talk to. If you wanted to talk to John Lennon, he'd be there for you. You could talk to him.
It's quite funny you say that, because when I was younger, right, so I was trying to form a rock and roll band and stuff like that, and trying to write lyrics and do stuff. And I had this dream where John Lennon came to me in the dream and says, whatever you do, don't give up. Just remember, don't give up. And that dream has stuck with me and probably kept me going.
He's a fan right now,
Is he? Are you talking to him?
No, seriously. He's a. I'm sure he's a fan of yours right now.
Hi.
He gets off on this shit. The whole revolution, fight the power, all that crap. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
He loves it.
I've been listening to some podcasts recently based on it was his 80th. Would have been his 80th birthday recently, and he was. Well, in the podcast, they were alluding to the fact that he kind of got drawn into, what's the guy's name, Jerry Rubin, and these kind of political guys that kind of made the hippie movement kind of not ridiculed it, in fact, a little bit. And he wrote the song Power to the People, and he's kind of regretted that militant aspect of it. He said he should have kept to maybe the bed-ins and the kind of just, advertisements for peace, and he kind of regretted getting more into the political aspect. But it made him an interesting character nonetheless, He always wrote the truth.
Yeah. Well, I personally like Working Class Hero.
Yeah, that's my favourite one. The Imagine one, do you not think that's like, although it's revered, do you not think it's like a communist manifesto kind of thing?
Power to the people?
No, imagine all the people. No.
Well,
imagine no possessions. Imagine.
Yeah, it is in a way, and it's obviously, it's anti. Obviously, John Lennon knows better now as far as God. Certainly he knows better now. It's how it is. They die and then they get the they go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
They figured it out real quick.
Yeah, but he did. Well, there's a lot of history of the Beatles, and there's some pictures of John Lennon. I don't know. The whole Beatles thing was a Tavistock creation, and there's like different.
Of course.
There's like the latter day John Lennon's got a hooked nose, and he looks so different to the younger one, and I don't know. It's just pretty crazy.
I don't think they replaced him. I'm pretty sure. No, the only one they replaced, of course, was John.
Paul.
Paul. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But they never really got over that. I mean, they got used to it, but they never really got over it.
Yeah. There's a lot of people say, well, in those podcasts, like John Lennon figured out that he was used, and he was even an MK Ultra victim. So in that first album with Plastic Ono Band, we had Working Class Hero in it. He was going through scream therapy and stuff like that, and that's why it was a very personal album, as he was kind of almost getting over his heroin addiction.
So
and coming
did you run out and buy that damn thing or what?
Yeah.
Oh no, you're not that old, man. You're not as old as me.
I was born in the year it was released, which is 71.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's kind of trippy.
When were you born?
I was born in '58, man. But
yeah. Oh my God, you're ancient.
I know. I'm a fucking. I'm a wizard, dude. I just don't look like it. But
you do look.
God, I'll tell you though. Seriously, that was a very revolutionary album.
Was it?
Oh yeah, it wasn't really allowed on the radio, obviously.
All right.
And they did play a little bit on the FM frequency, but that's the only way you could really hear it.
He's got the song, I don't believe in Beatles, I don't believe in Zimmerman, I don't believe in Buddha,
Yeah.
I just believe in me. But it was just basically quite
And
self-empowering.
Yoko.
And Yoko. Yeah. Well spotted.
Damn Yoko.
Is that Yoko? Do you think she came from Japanese aristocracy, and I think she was a controller basically, and
of course.
Aye. Because even
he was very easy to manipulate. That's the problem. It's just like you talk about Jerry Rubin and these guys in Tavistock. It's like whoever was the latest to come along and control those guys. The same thing with the Rajneesh or whoever it was that they were hanging around. Maharishi, whoever it was. Yeah, exactly. It's always something like that.
Well, that's what they say as well. John always had like a handler, or even like he had Cynthia, and basically. Even before then, Stuart Sutcliffe, they were apparently lovers.
I think the pot helped him to break that.
Yeah,
seriously.
All right. And then basically Yoko told him to leave, but she recommended that he went with the secretary, Mia Farrow, was it? No, it wasn't Mia Farrow's, something like that.
Yeah.
And then Yoko would call him every day and check up on him, even when she was staying with the other woman. So it was a bit bizarre.
She was weird, yeah. She's still weird. Nasty.
So, with regard to, you've done a couple of videos during the week there. You were getting a bit agitated.
Well, yeah, I'm agitated because, of course, the censorship nonsense, and not just the censorship, but the way they're attacking. What we've put together with this QAnon group. It's like, they're not attacking Q. They're attacking QAnon, okay? It's like the enemy here should be Q. It should be this mysterious Q thing. But no, they're attacking the people who are following this mysterious Q thing. It's fucking ridiculous. But what bothers me the most, of course, is that the people that are doing the attacking and the persecuting and the lies are the same tribe members that are doing the genocide and the pedophilia.
Yeah.
So it's like it's really time to start calling these people out. We're not going to have a Holocaust, but what we do need is some truth. Because this war right now, this censorship is a war on truth. And who's fighting us? The fucking Khazars, these tribe members.
Yep. It's good that you basically keep coming back to that, because ultimately this is the truth. This is what gets suppressed all the time, and as soon as you talk this stuff, that's what gets you these people's attention. And this is they're claiming, you can't be racist, whatever, peace and love. They're just using that as an excuse so that we can't talk about them. Yeah. an honest look at
Yeah,
history.
truth is hate now. That's what it is. They're speaking hate. It's like, no,
Yeah.
we just want you to tell the truth.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. It's like 1984. It is actually legitimately exactly being enacted with this stuff.
Worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty bad. So, Falkirk, huh? I
Yeah,
don't know.
I was going to go today, but I don't know about these meetings do much good, really. You know, I think people need to, I don't know, God knows.
When you have too many conflicting voices that are going off in these confusing directions and giving people these alternatives that are really questionable when it comes to the ultimate, efficiency.
See, I
It's
agree
hard
with
to
what
say.
you were saying. You know, yes, I think this Article
Well, if I was
61.
up there, I'd be going down on the crown and I'd be shaming everybody for not hanging those fucking Rothschilds hundreds of years ago, right? They should have.
Yeah.
They should have hung those bastards. But instead, everybody took the money. They took the shillings. And it's just like you said, these cops, the ones that are doing the, enforcing these laws. In my show, I was talking about the potato famine and how they took these people and they extracted every last bit of food out of their warehouses and ripped their roofs off and drove them out of the country just to get the damn. I mean, that was a planned genocide because it's like they said, okay, you have to pay a tax on every head. Those landlords, those so-called nobles, had to get rid of those people. They did not want to pay those head taxes. So either genocide, force them to immigrate, whatever. Get them out of there and
Yeah,
replace them with pigs.
yeah, people said there was a famine, but there wasn't a famine. The English guards would take all the food away from them.
Yeah. Well, okay, sure, there was a potato blight, but the thing is what I try to tell people is like, yeah, sure, the Irish enjoy their potatoes, but they'll eat corn, they'll eat, grain, they'll eat all that stuff. The thing is, it was being taken away because
Yeah.
the English didn't want the potatoes. They said, you can eat your damn dirty potatoes. We're going to take this stuff. So, yeah, that's why there was no grain, no corn. And when a stupid blight comes along, for whatever reason, there wasn't any alternative.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just the whole world's a story of this parasitical group going around usurping governments and taking over the people, controlling the money, and then controlling the country and keeping us poor and then rich.
So is Benjamin Disraeli another Donald Trump, you think?
I don't know. God, do we really need another Donald Trump?
Well, I mean, you know what I'm saying. I mean, Disraeli, here you got this head of parliament or whatever he was. I don't, was he prime minister at one time? I think so, but he must have been head of parliament too.
Yeah,
But
I think it was.
but he was like total fucking Zionist Jew,
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what I mean?
Well, right now, obviously, Boris and fucking Nicola and stuff are all working for the same gang. This ridiculous story that they've got going on about this virus and how they're justifying lockdowns is completely, it's surreal. It's got to the point of being surreal of people walking around with masks and believing this shit at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
And
know.
it's just, this is Agenda 21. It's written in stone. It's basically getting enacted, and I just don't understand why people aren't
Well,
rising up against it.
I there are a couple people out there that are actually getting sick here and there, but I don't think they're dying. But you know, again, it's just getting really old. But here's the thing, supposedly Donald Trump will, if he gets reelected, he'll shut this stuff down and he'll bring everything back to normal and open up the restaurants and possibly allow people to come back into the country and fly and all that sort of thing. And yet the opposition is suggesting that this is insane to do something like to suggest to do this. Oh, well, he's going to kill us all. So,
So basically, before I speak to you again, there is going to be this election, yeah?
Yeah.
So what's your prediction on it? And if one side wins, what do you think the outcome will be? If the other side wins, what do you think will happen?
Well, unlike the last election where I had a little stronger feelings about it one way or the other, right now it would appear that Donald Trump should be able to pull this off, even though the power structure is going to be working against him, and it looks like the numbers are going to be. It's going to be a difficult battle for him. However, he still has a small margin of possibility that he will actually be the winner. If he does, I think that he will not have to worry about re-election, obviously, and he will be able to do more, well, let's just say harsher. He can have harsher policies. But at the same time, I think that if you get down to who's going to be the most painful leader, I think that Biden, of course, in his complete control by the very worst of the our enemy forces, would mean that we'd be stuck with more bullshit, probably, for sure. Especially with this COVID crap, they'd have some, because they're Bolshevists. I mean, Bolshevists are bad. Nazis are bad, but Bolshevists are really bad. You know what I mean?
It's that old adage, which devil do you vote for, kind of thing.
Yeah. I think Nazi Trump is probably better than Bolshevist Biden.
Aye. Okay. By a whisker.
By a whisker, yeah. That's about it.
So do you have some hope then that Trump will put an end to this COVID stuff eventually?
I think that he has no choice. He's going to, because he played along with his bullshit for a while, and I think that he saw that it caused his was being used as a vehicle for his own destruction. And the thing is that the economy is just completely fucked up. Now Trump, of course, being the con man that he is, would want to set the country up for a pump and dump scam. But if he's going to do that, he wants to be the one on the receiving end, not Biden. So here's the thing: he set up a record deficit, a $1.1 trillion deficit for fiscal 2020. Well, because of the whatever you want to call them, stimulus, we are now looking at a deficit for 2020 going into October here, or ending November, and it's going to be 3.2 whatever trillion. Okay, so in other words, he's taken a world record deficit and tripled it in less than 12 months. And they're saying that they want to provide another stimulus package, which, in other words, looting it again, adding another trillion or more to the deficit, because, and here's the thing, is the stimulus isn't going to the people. Sure, the citizens will get a little check, but the bulk, but that's only like 1% of the overall stimulus, which is going into the pockets of corporations, slush funds, and the people in the government themselves. They're paying themselves off. So in other words, if Trump wins, that stimulus will probably be less, but the gutting of the country will probably be a little bit slower.
Ready?
Yeah. Biden will gut it a lot quicker. He'll just gut the fuck out of it. Yeah.
What do you want, folks? A quick, painful death, or a long, slow, drawn-out one?
We're looking at a Soviet Union type of collapse. That's what it's going to be.
Yep.
Pretty
cheery stuff. Cheery stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Aye. You just wake up these days and the news, I don't know if I said to you earlier, but it's like a state of MK Ultra. It's just fucking one insane thing coming at you after another.
Exactly what it is.
You're like, fucking hell. Oh, it's just another fucking hell. Oh, it's just another fucking hell. It's insane.
Then my cat dies. It's like, damn.
Yeah.
Right.
As if things couldn't get any worse.
All right. Say goodbye to the cat.
Bye, cats.
Bye, kitty.
You've been a good pet.
All right.
We'll dedicate this episode to the cat. What's his name again? Two-Face.
Cat's name is Two-Face.
Okay, thanks very much, Two-Face. Thank you. What's your other cat's name there?
Well, let me see. That cat is also dead. He died a while back, but they're related. But this was back in happier times, of course, no doubt. Yeah. She looks pretty happy there. Anyway, okay.
Okay, man. Thanks for the chat.
Talk to you next
time.
week.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Ciao. Adios. Bye.